What's the worst house guest experience you've had? Hi guys, it's Em. Thank you for all of the love recently. We have hit 5K subscribers and it truly means the world to us. I also wanted to ask if you guys would be interested in a small face reveal in the future. Let me know your thoughts, or if you prefer for me to still be anonymous to keep the creepy factor. Thanks again, and let's get into the video. Story 1. A former friend of ours called us and said that our house caught on fire, so naturally we offered a soft place to land while she was dealing with the fallout. So we went and picked her up, brought her home, and got her set up for the night. The next day, she grabbed what she could from her apartment and brought it over to our house. My wife washed all of her clothes, which, by the way, smelled the way you'd expect from being in a house fire. Unfortunately, that scent is really hard to get out. So our house smelled of fire for a long time as my wife was washing the clothes multiple times. Eventually, we realized that she was not trying at all to get her life back in order. She also wasn't helping at all at our house with getting her things together. She apparently just decided that she was gonna just stay with us and coast, I guess. Being really critical of anything we did, tried to start drama, and was just generally unpleasant to be around. What finally broke the camel's back was that I returned one day to find her and someone we had never met before smoking on our front porch. Not really a big deal, but it was odd that she didn't let us know that she was inviting anyone into our house. The next day, I went to take my Adderall that I had just filled and noticed there were like 5 left from the prescription. Her and her friend helped themselves to my meds. After that, she announced that she was going to stay somewhere that she was welcome, and that we could throw the clothes and items away that we had at our house because she didn't want them anymore, because they smelled too much like smoke. The best came after she moved out. We read a story about the fire in the newspaper about the cause of the fire. She had caused it by smoking on the back deck of her apartment, by carelessly not putting the cigarette out. We never really saw her again. She tried to make contact, but we just noped out. She ended up moving in with some of our other friends, which we tried to warn them about, and ended up almost accidentally killing their dog due to carelessness before being kicked out by them. Yeah, she sucked. I have never understood how some people can so readily take advantage of others. Without sharing too much, I once had to couch hop, and I tried to be the best house guest I could. Make little noise, clean up after myself, and always chip in for groceries. Sometimes the entitlement on these people is truly baffling. Story 2. My aunt came for a visit for what was supposed to be a week or two, and didn't leave for almost a year when I was a kid. She redecorated my room and even put up pictures of herself. Now, the running joke in my family is to randomly leave pictures of yourself around the house when we visit people. Somebody commented, "LMAO, that's so funny. Reminds me of a guy I used to work with who used to take pictures of himself and his family at IKEA. Over a long while, he put them in the frames in all the displays. Nearly pissed myself when I went one day and spotted a pic of him on a beach somewhere in a bedroom display." Somebody then commented, "That is hysterical. It reminds me of instant ancestors." Many years ago, my mother and I ran across a bunch of old frame photos at a thrift store. My mother bought the whole box. We hung a few of them up in the house with the old photos still in them. We called them our instant ancestors. Somebody said, "My uncle was supposed to fly on a trip, so he was going to stay for a couple days. Instead, he went like F this and spent the whole summer with us." Somebody responded to them saying, "My dad had a cousin who did this exact same thing. Supposed to be a couple weeks or so. Went on for a year. Hung her family pics in the hallway. And not even with a nail, but huge screws. My dad was too nice to ask her to leave, so it was up to my grandfather and I. She passively aggressively hung them up. I took them down and put them in her bedroom in the same passive-aggressive fashion. She got so pissed that she finally moved out, but wrote my dad hate-filled threatening letters for a couple of years. She thought they were gonna get married. Literally said so in the letters. They were first cousins. She was so nuts." Somebody commented to them saying she even put up pictures of herself. "This is hilarious. It reminds me of the Dave Chappelle skit where the cops accuse a black man of breaking into a home and putting up pictures of his own family. The joke is that it's really his house." Story 3. A friend I haven't seen in a year or so called me last weekend wanting to catch up, so he came over. I didn't realize he was blackout drunk until he walked in, and I didn't realize how to defuse the situation. It started with him taking a poop in my bathroom, and instead of flushing it, He just put both seats down, went into my fridge to grab a craft IPA that I had been saving for a rainy day, and drank it. Went outside, and out of nowhere, he started saying the N-word. He's never been racist as far as I know. At this point, I told him to get the F out nicely, or calm down. But I also didn't want him to crash his car home as he lives an hour away. He then said he's gonna go get cigarettes, so I offered to drive him. As soon as we're down the road, he yells at me to pull over because he has to pee, again calling me the N-word for no apparent reason. I told him to just wait 3 minutes, and he takes his pee-pee out and puts it in his beer can and just pees everywhere and then throws it outside. By this time, I'm livid, and he grabs my arm to apologize, but his hand was soaked in pee. So he basically just wiped it all over me. I knew I was gonna punch him in the face if I didn't get him to the gas station, so once I got there, I told him to go inside. When he went, I peeled out of there and called his girlfriend, saying she needed to pick him up from that gas station. I took a shower, and an hour later, his girlfriend calls me and says he's in the backseat of a cop car because he called 911 asking for cocaine. Needless to say, that's the last time I'll be seeing him. OP, I hope you did like a civil case and made him pay to have your car cleaned. Uber can charge up to like $500 to make people clean the car. So you were at least entitled to that. And whatever mental damages it did by having to see your friend's ding-a-ling. Story 4. We had a house sitter once who wanted to bring their dog for the week. They assured us the dog was well behaved and house trained. This was a pretty close friend, and their house is nice and clean, so we believed them. Came home to find every rug in our house destroyed. The house smelled funky when we walked in, and I immediately found wet spots on our living room rug. Lifted it up, and it had more stained areas than not. Same with the kitchen, hallway, bedroom, and guest room rugs. I'm guessing this dog didn't pee outside a single time it was there. This was someone we paid to watch our house. Somebody commented, they assured that the dog was well behaved and house trained, which they apparently thought meant trained to pee in the house. Somebody commented their own story. I had a similar incident with a paid sitter. Our dog walker of 5 years was squatting at our place every time we left town. These were like 4 to 5 day trips once a month at some point in year 3. She excitedly declares that she can do stay-overs for an extra $25 a day, instead of twice-a-day visits for potty and feeding. I happily paid her that extra money, like a fool. We never found out she'd been there all along, until when COVID hit and we went on lockdown. We were living in a high-rise loft with increasing positive cases and shared ventilation. My husband got spooked, so we went to an Airbnb out of town for the rest of the lockdown. Turns out she was staying at our loft the whole time. She had the front desk believing she was house-sitting. She had a key, they knew she was the dog walker, so it raised no eyebrows. I dropped by to check on things unannounced, and she had flat out moved in. Clothes in closet, toiletries organized in drawers, pantries filled with her staples. The whole shebang. Story 5. Okay, this is a pretty good one. So I had a really old good friend call me and tell me they needed a place to stay for maybe a few days or a week when I lived in the Pacific Northwest. I, of course, said yes. Then she told me her girlfriend was coming too. Okay, great. They show up, and when they get to my porch, she tells me her girlfriend has strep throat. At first, I think, okay, whatever. But then I stop and think, isn't that highly contagious? But they are already here. So I just kind of started thinking to myself that I'll have to somehow keep them in my spare bedroom and sterilize the crap out of everything. But then I'm just wondering why my friend didn't tell me in advance, or if they don't know how contagious it is. Like if my girlfriend had strep, I'd go get a hotel and not subject my friend to that. After about a day, my friend tells me via text she has to leave. At first, I'm relieved, but then she asks if her girlfriend can just stay at my place. I don't know her. I've never met her in my life. I tell her I have another couple that need to come stay with me, which was true, and I'm not comfortable housing someone I don't know who is sick. She says that is fine, but then when she comes to get her stuff, she acts all pissed and says, well, see you sometime, maybe. And I didn't hear from her for a long time after. Kind of fed up she put me in that situation, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know why she was treating you like a babysitter or something, when the friend wasn't even paying you for the room. I think some people just assume others will do whatever they want, no matter how much the favor changes from the original ask. And then they get all pissy when you actually stick up for yourself. Story 6. Not my experience, but my mom's. One of my dad's younger cousins moved into my parents' newlywed house to stay with them until he finds some other arrangement for them. My dad's a pushover and mom's an introvert. He ended up making my parents move out of their bedroom to another room as he needed it for his studies. That POS uncle had his friends over every other weekend. Even though my older brother was born, he did not move out. And then my dad's younger brother died, which gave him another reason to stay with them. Dad was living a soulless life for a few months after that. Then, after 4 years, I was born. And boy, oh boy, the baby me was a crier. According to my brother, if my uncle was even within 10 feet of me, I would cry. If I heard his voice, I would cry. Then he finally left the house and has never been in our lives again. I guess I'm a blessing. Somebody asked OP, surely this is a joke. Your parents moved out of their bedroom? OP responded, it may sound like a joke, but that's the truth. My parents married young, both were 20 years old. I have seen many people walk over my dad, and a lot of his friends had duped him for money. My mom just wanted to be liked by her in-laws. Still not a fan of hers. My brother's somewhat the same. He can't handle light jokes and takes them personally. I really think I'm adopted at this point. I am not like my folks. Story 7. My girlfriend was pregnant and we were taking a little vacation. We let 2 friends who are brothers use our house while we were gone on the condition that they maintain the yard and garden. First, they borrowed the truck, which wasn't a big deal, but they immediately wrecked it, driving head-on into a garbage truck. Then our very best friend stopped by to borrow something and they told her to F off. They found some hidden cash, maybe $100, and stole it. They broke plates. We came home to find a pile of soaking wet towels and linens, which had grown mold, and they all had to be replaced. Believe it or not, they did make an attempt to mow the lawn, but somehow broke the lawnmower and then never fixed it or mowed or watered anything. And many flowers were dead. I had been collecting exotic varieties of heliconia there on the big island of Hawaii, and they were all dead. Some of those flowers were worth $80 or $100. So we come home from vacation and the boys have vanished without a trace and won't ever answer our calls again. We are 5 months pregnant with no vehicle in a trashed house. I think the worst part was that we really did think of them as friends, but then they ghosted us like that. Like we were disposable in our pregnancy and our lives didn't matter. Look, you guys might call me extreme, but I know my family always made a pseudo contract whenever we had someone house sit, explaining how much we would pay them and their responsibilities. We only ever had to use it once when the lady just didn't show up and didn't feed the cat for 2 days at a time, and not just like left a bunch of food out. She would leave 1 meal's worth and just dip. So yeah, contracts help a lot with these kinds of people. Story 8. My uncle and his wife came to stay for a while. They got my room and I slept on the couch for a few months. Not a big deal when you're a kid, I guess. What actually ticked me off is that when they finally left, we found out that they'd seriously messed up my room. Everything reeked of cigarettes. There were ground up peanut shells on the carpet, cigarette burns on my mattress, etc. And we couldn't figure out why the room smelled like death until we lifted up the bed and found a mummified cat poop stuck up in the shag carpeting. They either had such bad hygiene that they didn't notice the smell, or they knew and they just didn't care. Somebody commented, "Ugh, I had ex-friends crash in my spare room for a bit to get on their feet, leaving the room absolutely nasty. But the worst thing was finding a dried cat turd mashed on the carpet under a bookshelf. Thing is, it would have been physically impossible for the cat to get under the shelf to poop there, which means they found a mess from their animal and they just put my bookshelf on top of it rather than clean it up. Somebody asked them, holy crap, what is wrong with people? And the person responded, plot twist, they were on meth. Story 9. Ran into a guy I used to call a friend and let him stay with me for a while as he was down on his luck. I guess we ran out of toilet paper, so he used a washcloth and left it at the side of the toilet. Kicked him out and found out later he walked away with some of my CDs. Some mutual friends let him stay, against my advice. They came home one day to find him passed out on the couch with his pants around his ankles. After they kicked him out, they found out he racked up $900 in phone sex charges. Screw you, Noel. You always were and always will be a piece of poop. Story 10. My dad owned a business his whole life and was in the process of hiring new installers. One applicant came in from out of town and my dad, being the kind man he was, offered for him to stay in our home. When the morning came, the man went to take a shower. My parents heard the water turn on and it stayed on for a really long time. After an hour and a half of running water, my mom made my dad go check on him. My dad went upstairs, picked the lock on the bathroom door, and found blood and a limp body on the floor next to the running shower. The man had overdosed, lost consciousness, hit his head on the shower side, and died. He was dead, right there on the bathroom floor that I used for 10 years. One thing is for sure, he won't be coming back to our house again. Somebody commented, "This one caught me off guard." What I'm trying to understand is if the man overdosed because an old hit was still in his system, or if he literally took a hit at his potential boss's house. Either way, it's messed up, but geez, I can't imagine how bad it must be to take something probably an hour before an interview where you're literally living with the guy. Story 11. Housemates had people come over, ordered a pizza, decided they didn't want it, and refused to answer the door so they didn't have to pay. At 4 a.m., pizza guy could hear them through the door, so he kept knocking louder and louder. I eventually went to the door and opened it, then explained to the pizza guy what was going on, so that they didn't blacklist the property and force them to pay. As they were packing to leave the next day, I noticed them try to take some of my extra PS4 controllers by sneaking them into their bag. I'm normally an introvert, but already being cranky from no sleep, I lost my crap at that point. Called them disgusting. Somebody commented, "Controllers are expensive, screw them." Somebody said, "Yes, screw them, even if they weren't expensive though. Come into my house and steal stuff? Gross." Somebody commented, "What kind of psychopath changes their mind about pizza?" Story 12. Sister-in-law house sat while we were out of town. There were tons of disrespectful presents left for us. A cookie crumb trail of condom wrappers, which led to an actual used condom. Like WTF? But the worst part was after cleaning all that up, which was just aggravating and stupid. There was a putrid smell I couldn't put my finger on until I finally opened a drawer in the dresser in the guest room. She had left a takeout container in there, half an omelet that had gone rancid. I gotta hope she just had to go quick and forgot all that crap was there when she left. Either way, we took our key back from her. Somebody commented, "It's so interesting to see some people's habits. Yikes." Somebody else commented, "Trail of condom wrappers, follow the yellow pee-pee road." Story 13. I had a surgery and was on bed rest for a week. I asked my cousin, who was living with me at the time, to keep an eye on me, as I was on heavy painkillers. I stayed on the couch and let her use my bedroom. When I recovered, I found used weave piled up on clean towels in the bathroom cabinet, a douche nozzle behind my nightstand, trash piled all the way up the wall in the kitchen, dirty dishes everywhere, a plate of rancid food in the microwave, ketchup and mustard smeared on the floors, and she'd stolen a bunch of clothing and CDs, along with one of my iPhone chargers. She had a Windows phone, and she poked a hole in my $2,500 Sleep Number bed. I kicked her out immediately. I don't understand how some people can let their own house get this dirty, let alone do it to someone else's. Like, are there no signals in these people's heads of just acting like a decent person? Story 14. I was on my honeymoon with my husband and we let his dad stay at our house, but said he had to be out by the time we got back. We let him know when we were on our way home and expected him to be gone. When we got back, he was gone, but had not gotten his stuff out of the house. On top of that, he trashed the place like a group of teenagers, empty pizza boxes and trash laying around. He came back and stayed around for a bit and asked me if I was mad at him. Like, of course I'm mad, what do you expect? Somebody commented, by, "Are you mad at me? I assume you mean to apologize for your behavior. So how about we try that again?" Story 15. My old roommate told me she had a friend who had fallen on tough times and needed a spot to crash for a while. No worries, I told her. Big worries. He was a professional beatboxer, but more than that, he was a professional smoker. Like, I'm fine with weed generally, but this dude was on 12 to 15 blunts a day and would roll one as soon as he rolled his tidy-whitey clad butt off our couch. So for like 4 months, as soon as I woke up, it was nothing but clouds of white owl and, oh gosh, guys, okay. Ignore my beatboxing here. He didn't fall in rough times, he was a rough time. Story 16. One of my best buddies from high school called me up and begged for me to come get him from a town about 3 hours away. The idea was he would stay with us for a couple of weeks while he looked for work, and then get his own place. 6 months later, I ended up renting him a room for 1 month and dropping him off with his junk and wishing him well. His father had warned me he would drain me dry, and he wasn't kidding. All those months, he was supposedly using my vehicle to look for work, He was instead going out to a local bar. Every bottle in our liquor cabinet was drained down to the last finger. These people's patience is so much higher than mine. While I would want to trust my friend, I think after a while, I would start to get impatient and probably start probing them about what exact places they're looking at. Like, yes, helping your friends is important, and this job market can be stressful, but at some point, you have to take what you can get and just do that, while continuing to search for a better job. Story 17. He cranked my dad's speakers up to the max and blew them. They were from the 70s, so impossible to replace or repair. Then he clogged our toilet, grabbed a bunch of grandma's quilts to sop up the water. He then tried to stop the water by violently shaking the tank, cracking the bowl and dislodging it from its base. In a panic, he tried to bolt from the house. His wet feet slipped on the wood floor and he crashed into a wall, leaving a nice body-sized impression. That's how my brother's friends were barred from the house. Somebody commented, "How old was this guy? How do people like this even survive in the world?" OP responded, "He was 13 at the time." Story 18. That would be the girl visiting my sister-in-law who decided it would be funny to repeatedly prank call 911. I got a very angry call from the local police station, saying we either stopped or they'd be sending a squad car over. Apologized profusely to the officer and thanked him for calling us first. She was not invited back to our house. She was 17 and definitely old enough to know better. Somebody asked, "Isn't abuse of 911 an actual crime?" OP responded, "In Florida, the first false alarm call is not, but usually the second time is an explanation saying that they will get charged if this continues, unless it was explained the first time. Anything after, you will probably get charged." Story 19. When our son was born, my mother-in-law came and stayed on our couch for 2 weeks to help. In the first 2 weeks she was there, she did nothing to help. Dishes, laundry, feedings, nothing. And our poor son had real trouble feeding those first few months. We couldn't get him to eat well, and it didn't help that my mother-in-law was there the whole time, staring at us while the baby didn't eat. After 2 weeks, my father-in-law was going to join us, so my mother-in-law baked a pie. For him. That's why I always said that if we had another one, I'd be on the doorstep with a shotgun until the baby was 6 months old. So my sister-in-law is still a couple years away from having a kid, but I do know that she will realistically want her mother or mine go down to help for a few weeks. But that's on the contingency they actually help instead of harm. So I had to talk with my mom that she would essentially be a maid and nanny, so my sister-in-law can rest, and that's kind of the arrangement. And she has to be okay with that before she goes down there. Story 20. Never even got to spend any time in this apartment. I agreed to rent an apartment with my younger sister on her road to recovery from drug use, and we'd all thought she was doing well. I paid for the first month's rent and deposit, which is standard. She moved in a week early because I was working the night shift and the whole process started on a Monday. That weekend I got to move in. I found out my debit card was locked out because she stole it and attempted to withdraw money too many times. It didn't get any better after that, sadly. Story 21. Couple came for a weekend to my small apartment. Surprised that they brought 3 dogs and an extra friend. The puppy took a dump on my floor in the night, which nobody got up to clean. Another dog had a crate but managed to get a hold of a carpet outside the crate, drag it in, and shred it. They also chewed up cardboard and wooden furniture. When they left, all the shredded stuff was just where it fell. Story 22. My parents came over and started snooping through my closet while I was making tea. They found some adult toys and proceeded to get mad at me for having them. In my own house. In my own bedroom. They wouldn't even found them if they would have behaved like normal people. Somebody commented, not to mention, it's your frickin' house. If you want to leave your adult toys on your coffee table in the living room, that is your prerogative. Snoopers are gonna find stuff. That's literally why they're doing what they're doing. That being said, it's ridiculous to then get mad at OP for it. Like it's a legal item that doesn't hurt anyone, so why be pressed about it? It's like if my roommate went into my second drawer and started looking around. It's not my fault. You find a magazine picture of Chris Evans with kiss marks on it. Story 23. She stole all of my booze, pissed on my couch, tore up the flower bed to the side of my driveway, and destroyed my guest bathroom. This all happened after I'd fallen asleep. She was a guest of a tenant roommate, and that roommate was told either her friend wasn't allowed over ever again, or she'd have to find a new place to live. Somebody commented, literally thought this was gonna be about a dog. Story 24. Wife's cousin stayed a couple days with us. After he left, I discovered he purchased about $60 worth of adult films on DirecTV. Somebody commented, "Who are these monsters who pay for that? Especially on TV, let alone someone other than theirs. Just jerking in the living room in the afternoon while everyone pretends that the world isn't burning down around them." Somebody commented, "He crashed on our couch and this was overnight." Story 25. My ex-wife's friend had her car break down and our apartment was right on a bus route to her job. She was supposed to stay over for a week while she got her car fixed. After 2 months and a lot of warning, we packed her bags for her and put them by the door. Somebody asked, how long did she crash on the porch? Seriously, the gall of some people to just keep pushing their friends is astonishing to me. Like, this lady either lied about the car and actually lost her place, or she fully paid for her place for 2 months while just not living there. I can't tell which one I think is stupider. Story 26. My mom's cousin and her friend went for a short visit to our house. She was 5 months pregnant then. She and her husband didn't leave until the baby was 2 months old. Somebody commented, then when leaving, "It's a pity we could only pay for a short visit. We'd have loved to stay a bit more, but Jimmy's starting college tomorrow." Story 27. Husband of a friend came for Christmas since she was out of town. He brought the dog, who had diarrhea. Dog humped our dog for hours till our dog was covered in poop. Husband spouted racist crap and my kids laughed at him. Had to wash our dog in the kitchen after he left. Friend is divorced now. I am so confused at how the poop humping made this guy think it was okay to go off on a racist tangent. Like, what in his mind clicked that he was like, okay, let's go be racist? Makes sense why the friend divorced him. Good riddance. Story 28. Instead of asking where the toilet paper is, they let their kid wipe his butt with our guest towels. Somebody asked, was there extra toilet paper in the bathroom or were they too lazy to look? OP responded, they were overnight guests. There were definitely more rolls. They just didn't look around. Story 29. A guest took a dozen eggs from my pantry and cooked it and served it to her kid after refusing to allow the kid to eat a dish I cooked for them. I think I had an older post about it somewhere here in Reddit about it. Story 30. My dad's friend peed in the corner of the guest room and asked for money from everyone to happen to walk by him. Somebody asked, in that order? Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.